Hey, I just want to talk real quick about this idea that AI is our research buddy. You know, we use our AI apparently as a source of inspiration. AI is there for brainstorming. This is actually completely wrong. AI is not any kind of buddy. AI is a giant data center. Picture a huge, massive building, bigger than like whatever this building is in the background here, many times that size, full of computers. It's not even your AI. It's a giant collection of computers containing a model or many models, and you connect to it. It's a SaaS product. That's a software as a service product. You authenticate to it through your phone, right? It's not your buddy. And in particular, it's not an intelligence. If you imagine a scale from like over one side here to another, we've got this continuum, right? A fancy word for a scale from 0 to 1. At one end, you've got an intelligence, something that thinks like a human. At the other end, you've got a storage mechanism, something that's great at getting pages of information, boiling down, cutting out, trimming and scrapbooking pieces of that together into something that looks a bit like the kind of text that a human being would spit back at you. How does it do it? It trained on our chat, and it trained on all the documents that were put on the internet. Now that word training is a term of art that comes from computer science. I am a software engineer, have been for 20 years. I worked for Google in Mountain View, California on the ad serving infrastructure. And when I was there, we had 2 AI clusters as part of that data center. I had a startup that used artificial intelligence, actually computer vision. And when I say that AI is a term of art, that training is a term of art, what I mean is it's not real. It's a metaphor. It's something we use to describe something that happens inside the computer. Right? It's much more like encoding. One analogy you could use is that it's like the encoding you get when you take a movie in ultra high definition and compress it down into an MP4. What's happening there, that encoding actually includes a processing unit that works kind of like part of our human perception system, and it compares different frames of video and says, hey, could a human tell the difference between these frames? And if not, it's going to compress them down. So we've got loss. We've got what we call lossy compression. Now, this is just an analogy. It's not exactly how AI works, but the idea is pretty much the same. Basically, a model is like any other mathematical model of something that's happening inside a computer. And these models are collections of information that you can query. They're not your buddy. They're not an intelligence. You're not shooting the breeze with your trusty companion, right? And in particular, it's not yours. None of that information came from you. You didn't write it. You cut and pasted it. Now, folks will say, oh, that's not what I do. No. What I do is I just get inspiration from it. I use it for brainstorming. The Cosima study done at MIT Media Labs, everybody says, oh, that study showed that people are getting dumber while they're using AI. That's not the takeaway. The takeaway is that people are absolutely awful at estimating how much they use AI how much they rely on it, and how much they are abdicating all of their thought processes to that AI when they use it as their training buddy, as their writing companion. So maybe you start out thinking, I'll just ask it a question, but I'm pretty clever. I know that AIs don't always come back with the right response. I will go and check, right? That's what people think. But then the very best case is they're not actually checking. What they're doing is confirming. So they start out with a confirmation bias, right? They're going looking perhaps to see that the AI is correct. And they will search for information about why that particular hot take that the AI had is real, when there might actually be an inflection that places their particular context in a way that's utterly different from reality. One of the things that's important to understand is that when AI encoding takes place, it uses something called an embedding space, which is just a fancy term for how that compression is done. We get lots and lots of documents from the internet, and then we run an algorithm across those documents to reduce them to floating point numbers, which is something in a computer model in one of these data centers can ingest. Now that process of scanning all those documents has an averaging effect. So what that means is you're going to get a lot of documents that look sort of similar, talk about the same kind of concepts, and they're going to map those concepts into those floating point positions in n vector space. That loses information before it's even been further encoded and compressed into the model. Those first embedding layers in the transformer architecture, they're already losing information, averaging stuff out. So what you're getting from your so-called training buddy is missing all of the corner cases, all of the nuance. And if there's context that's dropped out of the context window, chances are you've got hold of completely the wrong end of the stick. Because it's encoding, not intelligence. It's not thinking. There is no thought process. There is no reasoning. And as the Casima study found, folks who think that they are using AI in that way actually wind up with very, very poor recollection of anything that's gone into that work, because it's actually taken the work from other authors who produced those original documents. Also, these computers have something called RAG, Retrieval Augmented Generation. So if you search for a topic that the AI really doesn't know about, something that's recent or just out of its scope for whatever reason, that retrieval process is going to get stuff quite possibly from the internet, depending on how the AI is set up. The broader internet might have some filters on it about what is supposedly an authoritative site. But in one of my other articles on Substack, I actually point out how Nature is a host to articles that have been written by folks who have just made stuff up out of whole cloth. So these things are not always authoritative. You read an article about how it's much more environmental to generate a bunch of stuff than it is for a human to do that. Artworks created by AIs, according to this article, more environmental, which is utter garbage. And this piece of research was in Nature. No, it wasn't in Nature, right? Nature is a prestigious journal where everything is peer-reviewed. This was in the Nature Scientific Reports, where you can basically pay to play. Long story short, if you are using an AI and it's getting stuff from RAG, from retrieval augmented generation, chances are it's just dressing up stuff that it got from the internet, but now it's filed off the serial numbers and it's presenting to you as though it was fact. And you might see a little byline if you're one of these people that has that thing even turned on, where you actually see the sources. Folks who tell me that they're using it as a research buddy. Like, how long before you just either completely ignore those things or turn them off, right? So AI is not your research buddy. AI is not giving you accurate information. AI is not coaching you to be a more intelligent, more knowledgeable person. It's the opposite. The discipline and the rigor that you need to come up with accurate writing or thought or thinking is being stolen from you. You're losing what they call SEWS, S-E-W-S, self-efficacy for writing. That's being taken from you by AI. You don't need it, right? We just have search engines like we always had. And you never said that you were using Google to write, did you? Right? AI, generative AI is what I'm talking about here. AI systems that have the capability to produce text. They are not your research buddy. And if you get on the internet and start claiming that they are, if you're spruiking that concept, then you are boosting a falsehood to people. I'd strongly suggest that you stop doing that, please. All right, that's all I have to say on that one, but no, AI is not your brainstorming companion.